Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to review the Waylighter from Kung Flo. Now, Kung Flo is a company and a web page and a social media profile by a guy named Ryan Parks. The middle name that he goes by is Riff. If you see Ryan on social media or anything like that, he's always doing cool contact moves. I'll talk about contact juggling. For those of you who don't know, is all of those moves that people do with staffs or swords where they roll it down their arm and they're not actually gripping it at the time. They can roll it over their shoulders and stuff. I'll include a link to a video of some of those moves in the description for this one. But Ryan does contact juggling. And the Waylighter is a tool that he developed that was designed to bring contact juggling to the lightsaber world. Now, that's been tried before. Some people have modified things like Ultra Sabers, myself included. There was one product that I know, or actually a couple products that I know of that were specifically designed for this, like the Flow Saber. Now, there's politics involved in that, but by and large, most of those products were made out of aluminum because the emphasis has always been on let's make this look like an awesome lightsaber out of the Star Wars universe. Now, the Waylighter is something different than that. It's not designed to look like an awesome lightsaber out of the Star Wars universe exactly. It's designed more for function. And that's because this is, rather than a cosplay tool or a costume tool, it can be used as a costume tool, but it's primarily designed to be a flow tool. So if you're used to fire flow props from places like Trick Concept or Dark Monk, you're used to things that are basically an aluminum tube, Kevlar wick, wooden pieces, bicycle grips, silicone tape, all tools that are readily available out in the world that in a pinch you could slap together and make one yourself if you knew what you were doing. And a lot of people do that. But what you do if you pay for something from a company that makes these things is you're paying for the design, you're paying for the calibration, you're paying for something that's put together by people who know what they're doing, probably better than you do in most cases. That's why you do that. So the Waylighter is that same sort of creature. It is available in a couple of different ways. Ryan makes these things himself on a sort of one-off basis. He'll make one, he'll post it, he'll sell it. And they usually cost around $100. And sometimes they're using cool translucent grips, and sometimes they're just using black. I've just got a black one right here. So he makes them and he sells them himself. He's also trying to investigate a business model where he lets people know what the designs are and the specifications, and they give him some sort of kickback. He hasn't really been explicit about what that is. And then they make them their own. They buy all the materials, etc. But he's there if they want to ask him about grips or ask him about weight or anything like that. So that's another option as well, but I'm not exactly certain how that works, and I don't think he's exactly certain how that works. So if that's something you're interested in, by all means, contact him on social media. But in terms of the Waylighter and the design, let's get into exactly what this thing is. So the blade stock on this thing right here is 7/8 inch blade stock, the same that you're going to get from Custom Saber Shop or most lightsaber distributors. It is smaller than a lot of lightsaber blades, though, thinner rather, because it is 7/8 inch instead of the industry standard 1 inch. If you get stuff from Pock Store, sometimes Kybers, you might have 7/8 inch already, but it's smaller than the standard that you get from Saber Forge, Vader's Vault, Ultra Sabers. Okay, the blade, or the whole thing on this is 40 inches long, a little bit more than, so this is a 40-inch saber. Now that's also pretty standard. You get a saber from Ultra Sabers, you have a 32 or a 36-inch blade, and you usually have between a 10 and a 12-inch hilt. So you're dealing with something that's roughly the same length as a lot of other sabers on the market. You will notice that the handle on this thing is substantially longer than usual. Now that's because the handle on this is made for those contact moves. So this bit in the middle here that lights up, this is the point of balance. So for moves like shoulder rolls, etc., being able to quickly reference the point of balance on your saber helps you be able to do those things, and also to be able to feel it without having to look at it, because you can feel the rise. That helps quite a bit with some of the moves this is designed to do. The rest of the pieces are BMX bike handles. So this one's using a couple of different kinds. This one's wrapped all in silicone. This one's using a few different cheap brands. The ones at the top and the bottom are locking so that they don't move around on you. But these are basically handlebar grips. So I've seen him use motorcycle grips. I've seen him use bicycle grips, etc. Theoretically, you could just wrap this. but that would work as well. But the blade goes all the way through this, as opposed to in most sabers where the blade is secured up here. The LED unit on this is a pen light. So it's in there with a gasket that makes it a solid fit and a little bit of wire tape, but the button is accessible here on the bottom. You turn it on, and you've got light. Okay, the pen light comes up to about here. Most of them are white, and in order to access them and turn them off and on, you have to remove the pommel. The pommel is a rubber furniture foot. Now, this is super durable, and it doesn't look too bad, but again, available in a lot of different places. The furniture foot here is aperture of 1.25 inches, I think, and inside of it are washers for weight. Now, the washers are added to bring the point of balance back to here. You add as many washers as you need to. The other end of this, the ones that Ryan sells don't have blade tips. I put a blade tip on here because I had some around and I wanted the mirrored disc to add to the light a little bit. But it's got a rubber furniture foot up here on the top as well, so that when the thing falls, it hits rubber foot, sometimes a little bit on this metal, but by and large this thing is pretty much indestructible. It's not designed for baseball swinging at trees, but in terms of dropping and throwing, you're going to be hard-pressed to actually damage this guy, and that was part of the focus on this design. So you'll notice that these parts are fairly basic, as I mentioned, and you might be thinking, well, why would I pay $100 to have something that I could put together for a lot less? And that is true. You could put this together for less. It's not that much less once you start adding the pieces together. You order a blade from online, you're going to be paying $20. You get the handlebar grips, you're going to be paying about $8 to $15. You got to get this one as well, so you've got to buy a pair, so that's another $4 to $5. The furniture feet are a couple of bucks. The washers, surprisingly, are like $7 to $10 to get enough for a couple of them. Blade tip, other furniture foot, the light is $8 to $15. Miscellaneous costs for gaskets and such, and before you know it, you end up paying $60, $70. So what you're doing for that extra $30 or $40 is you're helping out Ryan, who came up with this design, and you're also paying for the calibration, which is not unusual within the flow arts community. You get something made by somebody who knows what they're doing, and it costs you a little bit more to do that. You want to go out and make your own out of a curtain rod, you can. So that was his idea behind this. The other thing about these is that they're very easy to modify. You get something like this, whether you put it together yourself or you get it from Ryan, and you decide, I want blade film in there. I stuck blade film in here. I had to stick a couple more washers in here to compensate for the blade film. You want a blade tip? I got a blade tip. Put a washer in there, compensate for the weight. This one wrapped in silicone tape so that it's got a matte, or so that it's got a uniform finish. Easy enough to do on the end run. Now, one thing about these designs is the ones that Ryan makes, he does not do in red. Now, I've talked to him about this before, but he's got deep philosophical misgivings about the color red. He believes that he identifies it with anger and negative emotions, and Ryan is very heavily into healing and physical therapy and dealing with addiction and post-traumatic stress. And he is uncompromising on this whole, I will offer them in any color as long as it's a heroic color thing. He won't go with red. And I've tried to talk to him about how red is more important, or is important to people. It's what they identify with. How red is some people's favorite color. How pushing your personal feelings about human nature on other people through limiting blade color is probably not the best approach. But all things told, he's pretty solid about this red thing. And that's fine. I mean, he doesn't want people to make these in red, but he can't really stop you. I made one in red, and I had a discussion with him about how this isn't a personal attack, but I want one in red, and it's important to me to have one. So I ended up with this one right here. Now, again, with these things, since they are so modifiable, you can get LED flashlights in red. They're for astronomy, they're for bird watching, but you can get them in red, you can get them in blue, you can get them in different colors, you can add colored blade film. If you get something like this, you know that it works, you can then modify it or adjust it any number of ways to suit your needs. So that's the other thing about these is this technique or this design is fairly open source. It would be nice, or Ryan has said it would be nice if you make your own, if you would give him some kind of props if you can, or kick something back if you can, but he doesn't really have a medium or a method for doing that. So a lot of this was designed to get these things out in the community and get people using them, and it seems to have worked for that. So I definitely appreciate that, but you can't really control a design like this once it gets out there. The other thing about these is, as I mentioned, they're virtually indestructible. Now, that's worth more than you think it is. You have that $200 metal lightsaber out there and you're practicing on top of concrete, you're going to be very careful what you do. And if you try to do something cool and you feel it start to go wrong, you're going to seize up, you're going to grab the lightsaber, because first priority is, let's not destroy that thing. Something like this, something starts to go wrong, you feel it start to fall, you can try to correct. You can see if you can actually make that move work. And if you can't and it falls, no problem. Hits rubber, nothing. I mean, the pommel might fall off. You might have to pick up a couple of washers, worst case scenario. But you're not going to really damage this thing, and that's part of the design. That's sort of, this is for function. This is for being experimental without having to have the risk of damaging your prize saber. Now that said, it's kind of a clunky looking design, and that goes along with that. You can use this for a costume in a pinch. It's not going to look as good as that one that you get from a saber company that makes replica sabers, like an Ultra Sabers or a Saber Forge or a Vader's Vault. It looks nothing like that. But if you drop a Vader's Vault, you're going to be crying. If you drop something like this, you just pick it back up again. So that was the idea. Also, it costs you a fraction of what some of those others do. So, not for all applications. This is not the cool, look at my Star Wars costume saber. This is the cool, look at what I can do throwing this thing around out in a park saber. And if that's what you're interested in, this is definitely a decent design. And I think it's more sturdy in that respect than a lot of the ones that have come before it, which have tried to sort of skate that line, or bridge that line and say, we want it to be the cool laser sword. This is saying, we want this to be a functional flow prop, and that's what you ended up with. So, that's the Waylighter. Couple of them here. If you're interested in getting one of these from the source, just look up Kung Flo on Facebook, or he's got a website. If you just Google him, you'll find it. But you can get them from the source. You can talk to him about it, and you can make your own. But I would suggest, if you're going to make your own, talk to him about it a little bit. There's a chance he'll shut down if you ever tell him that you're going to make a red one. But talk to him about it. Try to get his, try to figure out what's going on, get his support, give him some props if you can. At the very least, also, you get the ability, if you're on good terms with him, to ask him about fit on things, to show him a parts list and say, do you think this is going to work? Or ask him about modifications. So it's a handy thing, or it's a handy ability to have. So by all means, Ryan has done the community a service by coming out with these, and I encourage you guys to thank him if this is something that you're looking into. So there it is, the Waylighter. Hopefully this review has been of use to you. If not, or if it has, I'll see you back for more.